I'm Tim Bradner. Welcome to Capital Views. Fred Parady, Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Commerce and Economic Development, is here with us today. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you, Tim, for having me on the show.
You know, the Department of Commerce, your agency that you are, where you're Deputy Commissioner, is one of the most complicated departments in the state, covering everything from insurance to banks to securities, economic development. With that spread of activities, how is the current state budget situation affecting your department and activities?
Let me hit two things, Tim. First is the fiscal situation has hit us hard. Since I joined the department in August of 2014, we're down from a total budget of around $215 million to under $190. We've lost 72% of our general fund funding, which was primarily general fund support to the Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute and the tourism industry's tourism promotion efforts. We are largely self-funded. When you look across our 5 divisions, so you mentioned we have banking, insurance, we have corporations, business, professional licensing, economic development, and then Division of Community and Regional Affairs. The first 3, banking, insurance, and CBPL, are all self-funded by fees that are generated. So that's one piece. The second piece I wanted to go to was just the range, the complexity you mentioned. I mean, insurance has health insurance, property, life, casualty, etc. Banking has banking and securities, including the regulation of ANCSA corporations. Community and regional affairs, I like to say we're a teenager state. You know, our state was only joined the Union in 1959. We still have a constitutional provision, Article 10, Section 14, to provide support to local government. DCRA does that. We've got a group of local government specialists there to travel to our rural communities, support them with rural utility business advice, local elections, ordinances, local boundary commission, etc. That division also has the Alaska Native Language Preservation Advisory Council, which has just come out with a very urgent report about the state of Alaska's native languages. And then we have corporations, business, professional licensing. We have roughly 250,000 licenses there, 225,000. It's a third professional, a third business, and a third corporation. And those professional licenses are some 43 professions. Half of them have boards. So you license everything from veterinarians to podiatrists to massage therapists to contractors, hairdressers, etc. That generates more correspondence than anything else. So in the context of our day-to-day workload, if you will, certainly our leadership and our team is engaged with the fiscal crisis and fiscal solutions. But on a day-to-day basis, you know, your people come to work every day and they go about serving the people of Alaska. I was thinking today as I got ready for this interview that in the last 2 years we've completely streamlined and brought online the Alaska Taxable. That document's been produced since 1962. You can imagine it's about as dry as toast. But we've brought it into an Esri GIS database, made it interactive. You can pull up links and look at your community. It feeds into our community database where we have questions answered for a whole range of communities as to their vital economic indicators, if you will. In corporations, business, and professional licensing, that's been the key focus of our strategic plan, is streamlining licensing. What we picked out of the chute was medical licensing, healthcare professions. So doctors, nurses. If you struggle in licensing a doctor somewhere out in Alaska, you've got a facility, a hospital or a clinic or a psychiatric facility who urgently needs that licensed doctor in their facility to care for people. And trying to shorten our turnaround times, make things more digital and more electronic. We went through a classic whiteboarding process where we sticky noted the whiteboard with what we called rubs. Where's the friction that slows things down? I think we had 32 rubs in our first go round. So our people tackle, well, how do we reduce those? How do we communicate better amongst ourselves? How do we make sure to that applicant that they know their application is complete or deficient so that they can keep up. We've also worked with mundane things like when things renew, are we on a 2-year cycle or a single year cycle or in the same window of time. So
I know the healthcare community is very concerned in the licensing of nurses in rural facilities, making sure they get the right nurses, the right medical staff with the right licensure.
Yes, I had an interesting comment from the, I believe the right title would be recruitment director for one of the Kenai hospitals, but she said, you know, if I have a nurse or a doctor that struggle with the licensing process, that tells me something about their paperwork abilities, et cetera, in my staff. But it's also true that you have really nitty-gritty complex requirements as to producing certified transcripts and a record from every hospital you ever served at, and those requirements are there to serve the public. So we're there to help people get through that as expeditiously as possible.
In terms of corporations, in ANCSA corporations, are there any changes recently in this area?
We ran a regulations project to update our fee structure and our support to ANCSA corporations. You know, they're not licensed by the SEC.
I know that.
They're incredibly important to the state of Alaska. And so we've been very interested in working with their structure on such topics as proxy regulations and making those as workable as we can. My third example, when I was giving you the outline earlier, was our 1332 innovation waiver under the Affordable Care Act. We succeeded with that waiver application, and that's a $322 million benefit to the state of Alaska. I told my mom, you know, it's not every day you hit a $250 million home run.
And that's federal money.
That's federal money. The essential premise of that waiver, and it was led by our director, Wing Hire, and the governor and the DHSS commissioner helped us with it because it took a lot of work through Senator Murkowski's office, Senator Sullivan's office, Congressman Young's office. But the essential premise of that waiver is that because the legislature, Senator McKinnon, we put in $55 million to subsidize the individual market in Alaska. And by doing so, the federal subsidy, the feds subsidize about 2/3 of those residents, so they don't have to pay that subsidy because we suppress the rates. So they agreed to share that money back to us. So we put in $55 million of that 322, and the balance of it is federal money. It's something like a 275 number.
That's a real win-win. You know, we are
over a 5-year period, I should say.
Yeah, that's quite remarkable. Well, interesting times. Commissioner, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and this is Tim Bradner with Capitol Views with Deputy Commissioner Fred Parady. Thanks, Fred.
Well, that went by late.